This is our third session. Welcome to Balanced Literacy. We are going to go over to Literacy TA again. So you're going to need two different windows. You're going to need the window that you're currently using, Google Plus Hangout, and then you're going to need a tab or a window for literacyta.com. So if you guys don't mind going over there, Tawanda, if you could go over there, I'm going to show you how to gain access to our new platform, our new training platform. You go to literacyta.com and you log in, you will be able to go to your account. So I'm sharing my screen now so you can see. You're going to see that on your home page when you log in, you'll be dropped off on our main page, and then click on My Account. When you click on My Account, you will see your online training options, and then there's going to be a link right next to this laptop computer that gives you the name of the session or the training, Balanced Literacy. And if you click on that, you should be taken to a page that looks just like this.
Okay.
So this is the Atlanta Balanced Literacy training.
Do I need to log in?
Yes.
Yeah, you won't be able to get to the training page unless you log in. And then once you log in, you can click on our new learning module today, which is process and routines.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm on the main page. Do I need to click on?
So it sounds like Tawanda is working with you. Can you? Is she with us?
I can do it. I can hear you because you're talking, but we can't hear you. Did you look at me?
Oh, what I do?
So go.
Can you hear me now?
Go
I
up.
can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah.
Go up on the list. And then click My Account. And then go down. And then click Atlanta. And then go down. And click Process and Routine.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So the first thing that we want to do is click Sign In. When you click Sign In, it just registers that you are attending and that we have you here. When you click Sign In, it should just disappear. And then as you scroll down, you can see our agenda. So we moved a little bit away from just using Google Docs and being able to bounce around from one page to all the other links to now having a platform on literacyta.com that allows us to see all the Google components and then also gives us some different activities to do and some tasks to complete. So this is going to be where we work from here on out with our training. And then if any of the documents you want to open, there's a link directly underneath the little document itself, or the well where the document exists, and you can click on Open Document, and it will actually give you access to the full document instead of seeing it here. But the hyperlink should work through this. You should be fine being able to click around. So this is our session, our third session. Last time we talked about the cycle of independence and the importance of making sure that we restart the cycle with every new skill that we teach, or as texts become more complex and students are seeing new things for the first time, that the students have an opportunity to go through a process of modeling and working with the teacher, and then working in collaborative groups, and then finally working independently. And Tanya and I talked about Tawanda last time that how important it is to remember that every time a text becomes more complex, that we need to remember to start the cycle over again, and how important it is not to skip steps. There was a third grade teacher just the other day talking to me about how she taught her students under the document camera how to mark a paragraph, and then she let them go independently. She missed two very important steps. She missed the working with the teacher step, and she missed the collaborative activity step, where students use their own peers to help each other move through an activity or through a skill so that they still have that support of their peers, but not of the teacher. And as soon as you skip steps like that, the kids become a little frustrated, the classroom becomes less manageable, there's more behavioral issues, the students become less engaged because they don't really have the support that they need in order to be released at that time. So today, we're going to talk about deepening the balanced literacy process through two pieces in our classroom. One is setting up processes for reading and writing, and then the second is routine. So coming up with strong, effective classroom routines. So we are going to just move down to the presentation. And I found out yesterday, Sonia, after the training, that there's actually two ways we can do this. You could just look from the screen, or we can just go through the presentation this way, or you can click, of course, on it yourself. And then there's this little gear down here that if you click on, and you can open up into the editor. And I think you can open up and get a larger view of it. When you guys are looking at it from this view, looking at my screen or looking at your own, is it large enough, or do I need to enlarge it? Is the presentation large enough?
I know I looked at it last time that way. It seems like on our screen, it's telling me I don't have permission to view it.
Oh, that might be true. That might be true. Let me see if I have a setting issue. Let me take a look. Oh, yep, I do have a setting issue.
The one from last time, I was able to kind of just click through it.
Yeah, my fault. I built a new one and I didn't change it. Why don't you go ahead and refresh, both of you, refresh your screen that you're looking at on literacyta.com.
Okay.
So it will reload. It will reload the presentation.
Got it.
And then try opening it.
I'm on it.
Good. Perfect. Okay, then if you're just looking at it, I'll just work from literacyta.com. Then I won't enlarge mine. It just depends on what view you guys are looking at. I just want to make sure it's as clear as possible. I want to start off with two quotes that they are not mine, but they come from people in the field, educators in the field who are well known. This is Doug Buell. He says that in pseudo-reading, many students read to get work done rather than engage in reading to understand. I interview my students as often as possible on a wide range of topics, and one of the things I ask them about is homework. And I ask them about homework because I'm so curious about where their brain is when they go home to do work. Is it that they care about the material? Is it that they care about the points when they turn in the next day? Is it that they don't want to get in trouble from their parents? Do they have routines that they have established so when they go home they know exactly when homework happens? And what I find most often is that students take homework and they do it to get it done. They really don't have much care about what they're learning or what they're doing as long as they complete the task so they can turn it in the next day, which to me is not very effective and is not very useful. And what Buell is tapping into here is this idea that students see reading as a task to complete versus something that you do to understand. And I think that that's very interesting, especially when we're talking about balanced literacy. When teachers give a text to students and say, read this and answer questions in the back of the book, the problem is that the kids don't translate that into this information is important. They don't see it as important. So I think it's valuable to take what Buell's saying and think about how can we make, through balanced literacy lessons, how can we make reading important to kids so that they understand that this is not about just doing a task, but it's actually about making meaning and learning from that reading. And then there's a second quote. This is from Thomas Newkirk, and he is the author of Art of Slow Reading. And he talks about, and I love this quote because it fits Literacy TA perfectly, reading simple text can be difficult and reading complex text can be easy. And to me, this speaks about the importance of having a process. That reading simple text can be very, very difficult for students if they don't know how to engage the text in any purposeful way. And then if you do know how to engage a text in a purposeful way, then reading complex text can be very easy to do. as long as you have that process. So today we're going to talk about some processes that we can use. We're going to talk about some ways that we can empower our students, and more importantly, in some ways, empower our parents. Because our parents don't have any, if you think about education and you think about what we do, we send tasks home with instructions, and the kids have to complete those tasks. But we don't send home ways of completing those tasks. We don't send home ways of reading. We don't send home support tools for our parents to help them help their children. So kids go home and they say, I have to read this, and parents use whatever knowledge they have from their own schooling to help their children read. And there's a big gap there, right? Most of the time, parents don't have that knowledge to help their kid read, and then they're stuck with doing whatever they can to help their child finish the assignment. But with Literacy TA and reading processes that are available online, with every account, I don't know if you know this or not, but with every account that teachers have, every kid and every parent has access. So when a teacher in a classroom pays her $50 or his $50 for the whole year for Literacy TA, you're not only equipping your classroom with tons of resources for teaching, reading, and writing and speaking, but you're also preparing your parents with the same resources so that when their children come home, they have some things to lean on, and they have some resources that they can use to help their child read at higher levels. So I think that that's something that's important to know. This is as much as a support for parents as it is for kids. So what is a reading process? I've done some reading on what reading processes are, and I was trying to find some sort of description or some sort of definition, and I found a couple. And I've synthesized some things and I put in my own spin. So here it is. An effective reading process is inquiry-based. And that makes sense, right? Because what reading is really is a series of questions, right? What is this text about? What am I going to learn from this text? How long is this text? Where does this text exist? Is it in the sciences? Is it in the histories? What am I doing with this text? What does my teacher want me to do with this text? What does the text say? It's a constant discussion that you have with yourself, right? So with each reread, students ask different questions. Depending on where they are in the process, they ask deeper and deeper questions. The first initial questions they ask are very surface. What am I supposed to do with this text? What kind of text is this? What's the genre? Is it a poem? Is it a short story? Is it a novel? These are kind of some simple questions that students ask. But then you get into deeper questions and start asking things like, what is the purpose of this paragraph? Or how does the author support his or her ideas? Or how does the one character interact with the other? How might the antagonist influence the plot line? Or how about the protagonist? Is the protagonist doing something that's going to impact the overall theme of the story? So asking deeper questions as students read is critical to the reading process. So a successful reader will have this conversation, and the process models that conversation. The process models the conscious and subconscious decisions that readers have while reading.
Okay.
And then the decisions that proficient readers make are you can map them. You know exactly what kind of decisions they make. There's enough research done on what a mature reader does and how a mature reader reads. And so what you want to do is you want to create a reading process that models those decisions. So what Literacy TA has done is come up with a process for reading and writing. Specifically, I'm talking about reading right now, that focuses on comprehension reading and deep reading. So reading for deeper meaning, and then first reading for comprehension. So there's 5 steps that we're going to go over today in the process and talk about the power of those and how we support them. Do you guys have questions? It's very informal. There's just 2 of us, so or 3 now. Do you guys have questions yet, or do you have anything you'd like to clarify or add to this discussion?
No.
Simple enough. I think that who was that? Was that?
That was both of us. It's kind of going because we're in the same room.
Okay, no problem. All right, so let's take a look at the next slide. This is slide 5. So this is going to give you a chance to actually reflect on what we've talked about. So I'm just going to summarize really quickly We talked about the importance of a reading process. We talked about how students don't see reading as anything other than work. They see reading as something that they have to do versus something that they need to do in order to understand something that their teachers ask them to understand. And then we've talked about Newkirk, about the ideas that reading can be very simple. Reading complex text can be very simple if there's a process for reading. So what I'd like us to do, and this is going to be our first activity, and you can see on Google Plus Hangout, if you go back to the tab, you're going to see Activity 1, Reflection Document. What I'd like you guys to do is type in your name, and the way to get to the document is to click underneath it where it says Open Google Doc. You're going to click on Open Google Doc, type in your name, and then you're going to respond to the question that is above the table. So it says, respond to what you've heard so far. What do you think about the close reading quotes or Literacy TA's definition of a reading process? What resonates with you? And then please explain your thinking. So on my screen, I'm going to just model for you. I'm going to open up the document. It looks like, I hope we have sharing ability. I'm going to go ahead and type in my name. And then I'm going to just reflect on the 2 quotes, which you can go back to and look at, and or the reading process, the definition of a reading process. I don't know, a couple sentences would be fine, but I know there's something I've said that has connected with the conversation you've had or resonated with you because you're a coach, you help teachers, something that is said, and I'd just like to kind of hear from you by you typing your ideas. So the anonymous giraffe, is that you, Tanya?
No, I was trying to pull it up. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're okay. I'm just trying to figure it out. That must be, is that Tawanda or is it Catherine who's the...
It's not Catherine. I'm still trying to locate the original document with the links for all 4 sessions so that I can get in there.
Okay, that's changed.
Okay.
So, Catherine, if you don't mind, have you logged into Literacy TA yet?
I received my invite, so I can log in right now.
Okay.
Jonathan, it says that I do not have editing access to type on the document.
Yes.
What? Who's behind these documents anyway? Come on. Who is up to no good here?
I'm on your side, Jonathan, because everything worked last time, and it was just you and I.
It's me.
Okay. If you refresh your document, you should be able to type.
Okay.
And I haven't forgotten about you, Catherine. Let me know when you have successfully logged in.
Okay, I'm in the Literacy TA.
Get off my line.
Okay, at the top of your the web page, do you see a hand next to the word account?
Yes.
And is that hand opaque, white, or colored?
Color.
Beautiful. Yay. Okay, so what you're going to do is click on account.
Okay. All right.
And then after you click on account, you should see a laptop computer with a world on the keyboard. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then you should see a link to Atlanta Balanced Literacy. Do you see that?
Yes.
Awesome. Click on that for me.
Okay.
So now you should see, it should say Atlanta Balanced Literacy. You should see some gauges on the left-hand side and some boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. If you scroll down to Process and Routines and click on that, that's where we are.
All right. So it says I need to sign in?
Yeah, just click Sign In and it will go away.
Okay.
So did it disappear? The Sign
Uh,
In button?
yes.
Perfect. That's all it needed to do. And when you scroll down, you can see here's our agenda. And then if you keep scrolling down, because the links used to be inside the agenda, now they're just right on this page. So as you scroll down, you'll see the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you keep scrolling, you'll see Activity 1 Reflection Document. Do you see that?
Right. Yes.
Okay, so that's where we are. So to open that document, all you need to do is click on the link underneath the well, underneath the content well.
I'm not sure that I see.
Yeah, it's a small black lettered link that says
Oh,
open
I
Google.
see it. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
open Google Doc. Perfect. Yay. Oh, just so you know, Tanya, I went back and I made sure all the other ones are editable, so I'm ahead of the game now.
All right.
I am ahead of the game. Yeah, so Twanda, you talk about agreeing with the students do things or read to get work done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've had conversations with students and tried to figure out how I can change that paradigm for them, how I can get them to think about reading as something that empowers them instead of something that just has to get done. And it's easier to convince them when they're in front of me and we're working together and I can get those aha moments and I can tell them how this is helping. And that can happen all the way down into the elementary level. There's a third grade classroom this week that I was observing, and students were marking a text with the teacher, and the students were summarizing the text by going to the circled words and saying, you know, basically this is the information that we need to know based on the circles. And the teacher asks, how is circling your text helping you summarize? And the student said, well, it helps me identify very quickly what the most important words on the page are, so that when I need to tell someone about it, I can look back up those words, and all I have to do is fill in the language between. And those moments don't happen at home. You know, those aha moments where the student is asked a question about how is this reading strategy helping you, they don't have that opportunity to reflect. And so when they go home, and really all they want to do is play, right? Or middle school kids, all they want to do is go hang out with their friends. And high school students, they want to go work or do whatever, and hang out with their friends too. It's hard for them to see the value when no one's showing them the value. I think that's interesting. I don't have that answer, but it's interesting. And then yeah, Tanya, the mimicking and then the opportunity to learn how they should interact. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I used to teach reading like you need to read it again, right? If you don't get it, you need to read it again, and sometimes you don't get something the first time. That's how I taught reading. And they would say, well, I don't understand. I'm like, that's okay, not everyone understands the first time, just read it again. And what I didn't have was the knowledge of, oh, they need to read it differently every time they read, and that they should read it multiple times. But this is the big trick. Middle school and high school kids especially don't want to read texts more than once. So you don't say, we're going to read this text 4 times. The kids go, ugh, I don't want anything to do with that. But what you talk about is we're going to read this text in different ways. And every time we read it, we're going to find out something new. And we're going to learn something about this text that we didn't learn the first time. And you kind of turn it into some sort of game or puzzle to them. And that's, as research tells us, exactly what brains like. Brains love games. They love research. They love the researching of things, the investigation of things. Brains thrive on solving puzzles. So when you make reading not a puzzle that you don't know how to solve, but that every time we do something to it, you're going to learn something new. Your brain kind of activates and says, yeah, this is going to be fun. I think I'm going to like this. And they get into it instead of, you know, dreading that experience. So just kind of, it's teaching literacy, you know, is an art, and it's a delicate thing in a classroom. Catherine, it looks like you're successful and you added content. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And welcome. Thanks for adjusting to our new platform. It's a little different, but I think I'm liking it. Okay, so our next conversation is going to be about the reading and writing process, which is on slide 6 in the presentation. So Catherine, you can scroll up from Activity 1, going back to Literacy TA. Scroll up above Activity 1, there is a presentation. You can look at it from literacyta.com, or you can open it by clicking on what's called a cog, but it looks like a gear. And then you just, I think you click on Open Editor, and then you'll be able to see it. So we want to have a reading and writing process that's simple for kids and for teachers. We want something that's not going to be overwhelming to them, and that's something they can put up in their room. So something you need to know about Literacy TA is that we don't have a store. We have a store, but we don't have a store that sells posters. We create handouts that are poster ready, and we give your teachers permission to make posters out of them. So we want these things in classrooms. We want reading and writing process posters in classrooms so that you can hang them up and remind teachers of what the process is, and then also kids check in when they're looking around on the walls and they say, oh yeah, that's that process that we always go through. So it's good for both the teacher and the student to have something like this. And that they're simple. Simple steps, 1 to 5 for reading, and then 1, 2, and 3 for writing. So we want to make sure that these, this process also transfers to other content areas. So the process is not going to be fiction specific or English language arts specific. It's going to be text specific. It's going to walk kids through how to read any text. Even a visual, you can use this, or a video. You can use this to break down by walking through the steps. So I'm going to share my screen. So if you guys can go back to Google Plus Hangout. So right now you should probably have 3 screens, 3 tabs or screens. You should have your Google Plus Hangout. You should have, if you opened up the presentation, that tab, and then you would also have literacyta.com. So I'm sharing my screen. If you can jump over to that, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the skill library and just do a little bit of review, Tanya, from what we talked about, but it might be good for you to see it again. So I went into the skill library and I chose reading nonfiction. I could choose reading fiction if I want. The Writing Center, all of these sub-navigation are also listed here in the very landing page, as it's called, for skill library. So we wanted to make it really easy for teachers how to navigate this. Reading nonfiction, is that what you're teaching? No, I'm reading fiction. Okay, then you want to click here. No, I'm teaching writing right now. All right, then you want to click on writing. Or I want to do some speaking and listening activities. Great, that's over here. So since we're talking about the reading process, I'm going to click on reading nonfiction. And on this landing page, you can see our 5-step process outline. And you want to click on the grade levels to get to your grade level that you support. So here's for 5, 2, 3, and then K1. With every grade level, it gets more and more sophisticated and more languages added because there's new things and more things to think about as the kids get older in school. At any time, if you want the actual handout, the one that I showed you in the presentation, it's down here in the 5 steps to confident reading, and you can click on it and you can print it out or you can project it on your screen. What we've done with the 5 steps is we've aligned our skills and our skill library to each step in the reading process. So teachers can confidently come here and see the process, but then they know what skills they can teach for each step. And for variety purposes, as well as different reading objectives, you can click on this drop-down. And if you look on your screen, the drop-down gives different options: reading for main ideas, read and predict, read argument, read collaboratively, read for structure. If I click on any of these, the skills on the right-hand side will update. And what they're updating to is an analytical reading assignment. Or I can click on read and predict, and it's going to update to a prediction assignment, where the skills now align to making predictions and inferences, because that's what I want to teach with my kids. But what's wonderful about this is that the skills, even though they're changing, still align to the 5 steps. So the confidence comes in when teachers can confidently say, my students are using pausing and predicting as a way to read for comprehension. My students are making inferences as a way of reading for deeper meaning. My students are previewing their text through predicting the main idea. So this is the way that we support teachers in the reading process. And we do the same exact thing in the writing. So if I jump over to writing in the Writing Center, we show the 3 steps for writing. And over on the right-hand side, we have the skills that align to the 3 steps in the process, 1, 2, 3. And then again, of course, as we go down the grade levels, the handouts change out as well as the language so that it's more accessible for our younger learners. What's really great is that we push the envelope with writing, and we expect K1 students all the way to 12th grade to engage in peer review and editing marks. So I'm going to show you our editing marks for 2-3 and how cute these things are. So editing marks for 2-3 are 4 simple marks. We know that kids are still learning about capitalization at this grade level. We know that students are over-capitalizing, and we know that students are inserting some of the basic punctuation marks. And then we know that spelling is a consistent task and battle that we're working through. So spelling is something that we want them to focus on. So these 4 editing marks are grade level appropriate for our 2-3. And then you get for 4-5, we start to add more marks. But what's great is that throughout the year and then throughout the grade levels, students are talking about editing marks, and the editing marks are staying consistent. And they're adding new ones as students need to know more about their writing, sentence structure, for example, subject-verb agreement, for example. And then these can be used across content. They can be used in all different blocks of time if you're in elementary, and they can be used in different classes. So this is the process that we've outlined for writing, that students plan, they're going to write, they're going to edit, and peer review. And then the last step, of course, is publish. And then they can publish through speaking, they can publish through some sort of digital presentation, they can publish through writing. There's lots of different ways that they can publish. And then if you want the 3-step writing poster or handout, it's down here underneath the 3 steps. So we have fully supported the processes that we have outlined for our teachers, which is great. We want to make sure that we have the support for them so that they're not saying, well, I get the process, but I'm not quite sure I understand how to walk my kids through every aspect of it. I'm not quite sure how I can take my students through every step confidently. I'm going to need a little bit of help. And that's exactly what we do on our website, is we help teachers, right? Let me sign in as my user so I can get back to our presentation. So again, go back, if you ever get lost, you go back to your account, and then you go to the training that you're currently in, and then you can go to any of the learning modules. So this is process and routines is where we are. Do you guys have questions, comments, concerns, thoughts about the process, reading process and writing process as posters or as an approach in a classroom, sharing them, having teachers on board with them, anything like that? Are there current reading and writing processes that your teachers are using at your school sites? Or is it kind of hit and miss?
With the writing process, I know that we have teachers usually go through the writing process, but as far as like a uniform anchor chart for it, we really don't have one. It's just, they usually buy it from a school box or one that they make themselves.
And it varies, especially on the elementary level.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and that's normal. I mean, you guys are not unusual in that way. It varies if there's not any sort of cohesive thread, or there's not any real united purpose, right? Teachers are left to use Pinterest. They're left to use whatever program they came from the school before, whatever their credential program taught them. So the unification, the common language, the common approach is rarely seen, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But we provide a common language right out of the gate if you wanted it. And
But I would say, Jonathan, when we look at implementing writing across the curriculum,
mhm,
that this particular process, and I discussed it with Tawanda because we work for the same team,
mhm.
and we looked at showing it to our counterparts who support science and social studies on Friday.
Yeah,
Just so when you have a teacher who's trying to plan for that writing process but may not have that literacy background, they can use
right.
that information and the 5 steps that you guys have to produce a product that would allow them to be successful with the implementation of writing.
Good. And how do they take it? Could you tell?
No, we're going to talk about it on Friday.
Oh, sorry. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, and make sure, I'm sure you will, but as you go, as you click deeper into into the actual skills, so if I go to the skill library and writing center, remember we talked about the different supports. So if you click on, informational text, there's all these supports here to help them. There's an innovation wall, which basically is a fun way of saying a space for a graphic organizer. But what's nice about the innovation wall is that it gives them a reminder of the different types of graphic organizers that exist. In this section, there's taking notes on sources. So if they're asking the kids to incorporate sources into their writing, here's like a little way to do that. There are example worksheets. So these are kind of like support sheets that they can use. What's the main idea? What's a detail or example? What's another main idea, detail or example? So all these resources are here that they can use. And then, of course, during peer review, or just if they don't believe in peer review, they want them to check themselves. This is all independent check. So I'm going to check my intro. So this is a way for a student to rate or grade his or her performance on just the introduction. So I introduce the topic clearly, relevant background, the topic tells me the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and then they circle a value, written well or not yet, needs work. And then they can turn that in or have a conversation with the teacher about where they are. So there's some great resources to help the students and the teacher get this work done. So that's good. Excellent. Excellent, excellent. Okay. And then on our last session, hopefully everyone can make it, but in our last session we're going to talk about a new partnership that we're forming with schools called School Membership. And one of the things that we do is encourage teachers in all subject areas to post on their walls these writing process posters and to choose 1 or 2 skills to teach school-wide and to make a commitment. We call it the Pledge to Excellence. And what we're trying to do is say that every day you should try to improve as a teacher, every day. And not only improve as a teacher, but as a person, as a family member, as a member of society. And it's a whole program that strengthens school culture. And that's what we're trying to do. So that's what we're going to cover in our one of the things we're going to cover in our 4th session together. Okay, so with every skill, I'm on slide 7 now if you wanted to go back to your slides, or you can stay on my screen. With every skill we offer, it has its own expectations and its own routines. So now I've kind of established that there's this reading and writing process, but the routines are so important. So not only is there a routine for going through a reading process, but there's also a routine for each of the skills within each step. And that could really stress some teachers out thinking that they had to create those, but we do that for them. All of our skills have embedded routines, and those routines often are communicated in the instructions or in the activity itself. So what I thought we would do is we're going to take a look at 3 of them in particular. We're going to look at Read 1, Speak 2, Write 3 on slide 8, investigative reading, and then peer review. So we're going to look at these 3, and the purpose of this is to see how these skills have routines set up inside of them and how they connect back to balanced literacy and how the release of responsibility moves from teacher to student. So these are all supported literacy skills. Comprehension, read 1, speak 2, write 3. This is, if you will, this would be like reading step number 3. This would be reading step number 4, deep reading. And then writing, of course, would be step 5 and beyond into the writing process. So if you've never seen Read 1, Speak 2, Write 3, it's one of my favorites, especially for history and science. You can click on it through literacyta.com, or you can, I believe, click right onto your presentation, and it should take you to the skill page. Did you guys all, was that successful? Did you get there?
Yes.
Okay. So Read 1, Speak 2, Write 3, and you can see that there's tabs for grades 2, 3, 4, 5, and then middle high. So what I'm talking about is routines, and these routines are critical to student success because they don't need to relearn anything. Once they have learned how you want them to interact with each other and at what level of interaction, their ways of thinking, they can focus now on the task at hand and not worry about relearning new rules. So I'm going to show you a couple of ways that we set up the routines. The first thing that we do is when there is an important routine, we have a diagram. The diagram is something, as a teacher, I used to draw on my whiteboard all the time. And I'm like, this is silly. Why do I keep drawing this on the whiteboard? Why don't I just make a handout and then share it with my kids? And that's eventually what I did. And I talked to them about there's a difference between when I want you to stand and share and when I want you to sit down and share. And when I want you to stand and share, I typically don't want you to record anything. I'm typically not going to ask you to write anything. But when we have some poster work to do or we have some ideas that we need to exchange, it's usually going to be a sit down and share. And I talk about the importance of understanding what you're doing, finding your partner, and discussing your ideas with your partner. So one of the ways that we set up our routines is by giving them diagrams. Then we give them very clear instructions in our handouts. So this is called Read 1, Speak 2, Write 3. And just as all of our skills say exactly, their names are exactly what you do, this one is you read 1, paragraph or page or section. You speak 2, which means you speak in pairs, and then there's visuals on the right to support the information. And then you write 3, which means you go back and you write 3 main ideas from whatever section or paragraph that you just read. And we provide sentence starters. So you can see how powerful this routine can be in your third step in the balanced literacy or in the cycle of independence. When you're starting to have your kids move into collaborative work and you want them to work in a structured environment, Read 1, Speak 2, Write 3 is a fantastic collaborative structured environment. This is a great way for them to be successful at working in teams, in groups. It has the language starters for the reading, for the speaking and writing. It has the very clear steps, and then of course it has the diagram of what the room should look like. And then if teachers want to take it one step further, there's a graphic organizer where students write down the reference of what they are referring to, what page or paragraph, and then they write down their summary sentences here. Some teachers really like to have that additional support of a written document handout that they can give them. I personally like my students using their lined paper and turning their lined paper into graphic organizer, but this would work just fine. We have a rubric that I could go over with my students. Contributions, attitude, and focus. How are you as a team member? Are you helping out? Are you giving some good ideas? Or are you just sitting there? How's your attitude? Do you listen to your partner? Do you work cooperatively with your partner? Are you happy? And then focus. Do you stay with your partner the whole time? Are you off task? Do you tell stories? I have a student right now in my first period who is obsessed with video games. And all he does is talk about video games. Even when I ask him to do anything, he somehow finds a way to talk about video games with his groups. So his focus is way down here, rarely focuses on the task, right? And so a rubric like this really gives that child feedback about his or her behavior. I don't know if you remember this, but from the first day that we met in session 1, I talked about assessing process and how important assessing process is. So think about this as being one step. This is step 3 in our 5-step reading process, and this is one skill among many. And we have a rubric for it. We have rubrics for the end products, but we also have rubrics for every process. So as students learn to work together, as students learn to write independently, as students learn to read with their pencil in hand, we have rubrics for all of it. Because we want to give them feedback, and we want to give them the information that they need quickly so that they can adjust and increase their performance. All on the same page, we include language starters. So let's say my students are summarizing Read 1, Speak 2, Write 3, and that in the Write 3 they're summarizing parts of a textbook. Well, we have language starters to support summarizing ideas from a textbook. You can see that we deliberately chosen subsection, section in the chapter, right? Or this chapter discusses, because sometimes there's not an author. This page or paragraph. So we are trying to use the same language that they would use when reading textbooks. And then, of course, we have verbs for says. This is a great resource to teach kids how to use stronger verbs. And to know the difference between what does an author sound like when he's arguing versus when he's questioning versus when she is describing or she is reporting. What is the difference, and how do I know? So these words for says are great resources for this as well. So you could see where when my students are working in groups, I don't just say once you're in groups you're done. Now I'm giving them scaffolds. I'm giving them different supports, language starters. I'm giving them language verbs for says. I'm giving them things that will help them be successful. And as I release my responsibility to them, I can use my rubric to give them feedback. I can use my rubric to tell them what it is they're doing right, what it is they're doing wrong, what sorts of things I'm really enjoying that they're doing, what do I want to praise them for. So all of this gives them that feedback, right? The immediate feedback that we know is so important. Okay, I'm going to take a breath because I can do this for a very long time. What is thoughts, ideas, chuckles, insights?
I was saving, looking through the different items, and I think this is very helpful, especially for those teachers who may fear trying to allow students to have that release of responsibility. So it gives them the opportunity to have the information already created for them, and they would just have to modify it according to the task.
Yeah, thank you.
I really like the verbs for says. I mean, that is, I think, a wonderful way to provide students with the language, the academic language that they need to, for writing and speaking in the classroom. As I'm looking at some of the resources, including the, some of the sentence starters and things, I'm thinking about how I might modify those for a student with a lower language proficiency by, like the verbs for says, I know it's a middle high school document, but I might add in some visuals there that cue the student as to, arguing or claiming or explaining. In addition, the sentence starters, maybe even scaffolding within one part of that 1, 2, 3 process, having some that are more open-ended and some that are closed for students who might need that option, or that support in that part of the lesson.
Great. Excellent. And Catherine, also you might be interested in knowing that people who have literacy TA can go to the different grade levels. Now, I might not show that to my students, but what you're saying is well-founded, right? So if I wanted to go to 4 or 5 and I wanted to click on verbs for says for 4 or 5, there's fewer verbs, more white space, and definitions are a little bit easier, but no images yet for 4 or 5. But I like your idea. I took it down as a note to add visuals for the younger kids. But yeah, having this resource be able to vertically align up and down gives you a lot of options. So for example, look at this Read 1, Speak 2, Write 3. Fewer sentence starters, a little bit more lively with the pop green from our frog. And then you've got even lower, which is the 2-3. And in the 2-3, you can choose, this is Drake. And then, of course, there's going to be even more white space and even more manageable text. So I love that about our resources, that you don't sign up as a middle school, high school teacher, and then that's it. You're stuck with those resources. You can move in and out of the resources and pick things that work best for your kids. And we really pride ourselves on that. So it's just another layer of support. So in addition to the language support, we're also giving them scaffolded down kind of Lexile support as well, which is great. I wanted to talk about the verbs real quickly, Catherine, because you made me remember about what's important about these as well. Not only is it the language, but you notice that there's some verbs underneath. They're like subverbs for explain, subverbs for claim, subverbs for challenges. And the reason why we did that is because instead of putting a laundry list of verbs here that the kids may or may not know and have to sift through, we kind of cut out an important step where instead of having them have that long list, we're going to speed them up and say, look, if you want to use the word challenges, you could also use criticizes, and you could also use questions. And those two words are going to send different messages, but they are in the family of challenges. So is argues and asserts in the family of claims. So we've categorized some of the words which gave us more words to use for a particular type of summary writing that kids might use. So I really like that part, that the kids can, for reporting, if you don't want to say reporting, you can say reviews. This person reviews research, this person reviews a study, or this person summarizes a report or summarizes a study. So it's really a nice way to get more verbs in there without overwhelming the kids, because they know where they know the word family. They know where they're coming from. So that's kind of a little added bonus. All right, so this is Read 1, Speak 2, Write 3. Let's jump to our next one, which is investigative reading. Investigative reading can be found. Let me show you the search. Let me show you guys how this works. Our search is high-powered. We actually pay Google every month to help us with the search engine. So if you type in investigative reading, it's going to take you right to the resource. And why is that important? Because when you have so many thousands of web pages, we want our users to be able to find what they're looking for immediately. So our search is a really nice tool. So there's 3 ways you can get to it. You can go to the skill library and find it. You can use your search and find it, or you can link right off of the presentation slide. So this is investigative reading, and again, we have a diagram. So this looks different. We're not in pairs this time. We're in groups of 4. And there's our steps for the groups of 4. Here's what the classroom should look like, and here's what students should be doing. This is our diagram for investigative reading. What I love about investigative reading is that it models for students how to ask investigative questions of a text. So if you click on the guide, you're going to see a beginning set of those questions. So, what do I understand so far? What is this? What is essential in this paragraph? What is the purpose of this section? These questions are excellent questions to learn and ask when reading with groups or reading on your own. Just really important. With investigative reading, we have questions for fiction. We have questions for history, science, math, and then we have, again, the 4-5, so a little bit lower. And you can see we give fewer questions, more white space, a little bit more character design, because that's what it allows us to do. And then we have questions for fiction. The way this works is kids sit in groups of 4. They read a passage together, whether it be out loud or silently. I tend to like them reading silently. And then one person, picked by random, picked by assignment, chooses a question, asks the question of the group, and the whole group works to answer the question. So they read a paragraph, and a student might ask if it's his or her time, who are the main characters on this page? And then the students would go through the text and identify who the main characters are. Or what event caused the plot to change on this page? So the students, based on what they're reading, select from a list of questions. They ask the question to the group, and the group works together to answer the question. Those answers and questions can be recorded in a graphic organizer. That's the 4-5 graphic organizer. And then this is the middle high. So here's where the routine comes in. Students know that they sit in 4. Students know that they're going to be reading silently. Students know that one person from the group is going to ask a question from a list that's been provided by the teacher. Students know that once that question is asked, that they will work together to answer it. Students know that they're going to record their question as well as their answer in their notes or in a graphic organizer. So when I go back to balanced literacy, and I want my kids in that third portion to start working collaboratively, I can say we're going to do investigative reading, and now there's a complete process for doing that work. They know exactly where they're to be, how it works, who talks, when to talk, where we're getting our support from, and they go. And it's powerful. Very, very powerful. Okay. Last one. This one's peer review. So peer review is one of my favorite for writing. It's probably one of the most challenging and risky because you're giving kids so much room to do their own work, but this one is truly my favorite. When you want to help kids write, this is, in my opinion, the way to do it. Again, we have a diagram. I don't need to open, you know now. Now you have a routine. See, you know I'm doing this exactly the same way every time. So you now know and can predict what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go. That's important for learning because now you're able to learn more quickly and you don't have to relearn as I take you through things. So in peer review, I've got the diagram, I have the guide, I have the language supports. I am going to click on that though because the language supports are so cool for peer review. So it's called commenting starters down here. And if you open up the commenting starters, I'm going to enlarge this if you're watching my screen. This teaches students how to make suggestions in student work, how to make direct statements in student work, how to respond to student work. And these are all starters that get them headed in the right direction for making suggestions, direct statements, or responses. And this can be on your whiteboard, your screen, or it can be on tabletops in front of students. It is so powerful. Teachers have told me, hey, I'd like that. I'd like to have that when I'm grading papers. This is a great resource to help students keep an academic tone, help them write good comments that are useful. One of the criticisms of peer review is that students don't know how to provide good comments. And that's true if you don't teach them how, and that's true if you don't have high expectations for them. It's very, very true. They're just going to say, this was great, and sign it over and give it to the student. So we have scaffolding to help. We have a checklist for argument, informative texts. We also have where did it go? Oh, the student activity. I really find this powerful, having them color features of a text. And if they don't color, you can label those features. So part of the peer review process is that students take their own work and they try to find their introduction, their claim, their topic sentences, their evidence and support, their analysis of that evidence, and then concluding thoughts. And then for science or history, if they're going a different direction, we have a blank one. But here's what's powerful about this routine. Students know that they're going to sit in groups of 4. At K1 to 2-3, we have them sit in pairs. And you can see the routines. Maybe this will be your light homework assignment. If you click on this video on K1 peer review, you will see these routines and how powerful these routines are for our young learners, and then you can look at the routines for our older teenagers, and I have a video for that one as well, and you could tell right away how important the routine is and how that has contributed to their success. So both videos are great to watch. They're only a couple minutes long. They might get a little long, actually, 6 minutes or so, but definitely within 10, and definitely worth your time. Absolutely worth your time. And look at this. How many? Is any of you working with young kids?
Yes, Tawana and I both do.
So look at this. This is so cool. This is young children, age 1st grade, what is called charting a text, which is they are identifying the topic sentence and identifying the body and identifying the conclusion in a single paragraph response. And they're using color to do it. And look what we're doing. Green is the beginning, blue is the body, and red is the end.
Are these for the samples? Have the students been using this for a while to get to that point?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
Probably about 2 months.
Oh, that's not long.
Yeah, probably about 2 months.
Okay.
And you can see other examples. This is them going through and capitalizing. So instead of just capitalizing the errors, in K1, we want them to trace the capitals as well. So it cements in their brain that, common nouns, proper nouns and beginning of sentences and things like that are capitals. And by doing that, they're actually catching their own mistakes. And of course, remember, they're working with someone else. But look at the charting. See the green? And then the blue? And then the red? And that might not seem like a big deal, but it's a pretty big deal. Because this isn't a teacher telling them where these things exist. These are the students going back and analyzing their writing and making a decision about where in the text do they begin, where do they give their details, and where do they end. And this video shows them doing a number of things. This video is all captured on an iPhone, and it has no editing done to it at all. It's just iPhone with some cool little fly-ins and a 1st grade teacher setting this up for kids. And it was done in, let's see, I think it was shot in November, and she started teaching it in September.
Wow.
I actually, to be honest with you, I said wow, because even though it's my work, I don't think I quite imagined how good the kids would be at it. It's better than I ever would have thought. So it's really, really neat. And then, of course, we have the supports for that. The diagram, going back to that, and then the peer review. So let's go back to our presentation, see where we are. We've done the Read 1, Speak 2, Write 3, investigative reading, and then peer review. And slide 9, you can either follow along on my screen. Sorry, I haven't shown my face very much this time, but I am here, as you can tell. Or you can look on your own tabs if you've got the slides open. But the process and routines, I'm gonna have you guys make a connection, and I'm gonna have you make a connection to balanced literacy and what we've been talking about. So on literacyta.com, you're going to go to Activity 2. Activity 2's title is Learning Routines That Matter. And on this one, I want you to connect the routines for skills that you saw to how that might help with or strengthen balanced literacy lessons when you guys go back and work with your teachers. Now, one of the questions I have before you actually, well, maybe I'll end with that. I'll end with that. I don't want to complicate. So let me erase what I just said. You're going to go to the document, Activity 2, and then I'm going to debrief with you. The way to open up the document is there's a link underneath it. It says Open Google Docs. When you open Google Docs, it will take you to the document, and I should start seeing anonymous creatures appear, and I have. And you're just going to write in how you think these routines that we saw for comprehension reading, for analytical deep reading, for writing, how do they strengthen balanced literacy, specifically when it's step 3? How does that help with step 3?
I'm on edit only, view only.
No, I changed that.
Yeah. I was trying to make sure it wasn't me. I was sitting here trying to refresh.
I just want to giggle.
You guys make you know. Oh my gosh! It says view. It said edit earlier. All right. Well, at least you're getting some giggles out of it. That's useful. I'm a complete failure today. Okay, go ahead and refresh, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that you, Tanya? I was about to write on your line again.
Please don't.
Your caps are on.
I see.
She's just loud. She has lots to say.
Exactly. I get excited.
Excellent. Very good. Lots of great ideas. The words, if I were to mark this text, I would say that comfortable is so important, that we want our teachers to feel comfortable. We also want our teachers to implement. And if we can support them in the implementation, they're more likely to do it. I like the idea that the interaction of students, which then I'm going to jump down to Catherine, part of that interaction is the working together to solve problems, which of course is more than one word, but I'm okay with that. So important, working together to solve problems. This idea of ownership, Tawanda, is extremely important too, that they're not relying on the teacher anymore, that they're learning to rely on each other, which is the next step. And then that can't happen without scaffolding. See what I'm doing? I'm summarizing your text right now by just choosing the important words. The scaffolding is so important to students being able to have that ownership. If they don't have the tools to support them, it's very hard for them to work independently, which is here. And then, of course, she's talking about independently critique, but I think all these words are extremely important to, and Catherine, you've got the word ownership down here as well, and self-directed, which is also terrific. And all of this is about one important word, and that is routines, which is in Tanya's, in all of ours, Tawanda's. and Catherine. So it's kind of cool, right? Look at, I mean, that's really what we're talking about, is routines that help teachers implement group work so that they're comfortable, encouraging students to interact through the appropriate scaffolds. They take ownership and independently and work. They self-direct, and they solve problems, right? So that's awesome. And that's how I teach kids how to read text as well. What I just did with you guys is I pull out, through marking a text, the key pieces, and then I go through and I show them how you can summarize something by pulling key words out and then putting in the words in between. And it empowers kids, because they get frustrated when they don't know how to summarize and they feel like they have to rewrite everything. It empowers them. So it's a really cool way to teach kids how to summarize. And we're working on elementary right now. We're capturing a couple videos that are in raw, they're just raw cut right now on our phones, where kids in the 3rd grade have circled words and they go through and they summarize a text by just pointing to the words. It's gives you goosebumps. It's really incredible. So, okay, are you guys hanging on? Yeah, I think you're hanging on. You're doing a great job. We just have one more thing. Oh, and my debrief to this is I don't know where all of your schools are. I don't know how many schools you serve. I'm getting the sense that you each serve a school, but you might serve multiple schools. I have also getting the sense that you want your teachers to have access to some of these materials. And I had discussed in the first session that there's a $50 license fee for each teacher, which in my estimation is a very affordable price for what you get from Literacy TA. But there's another option. Sorry, was there a comment? No, okay. So the other option is talking to your school leadership or contacting me and setting up a meeting with your school leadership to talk about what's called school membership. And what school membership would do is give all your teachers, students, and parents access to the teacher assistant, what I've been showing you. And then it would create a goal for your school. There's a series of tasks. There's a Literacy TA coordinator, and we're gamifying school culture, school literacy culture. And there's things that teachers do, and there's commitments that they make, and you all hold each other accountable, and everyone's trying to get a green check next to their name. And it's a fun way, more lighthearted way to achieve school-wide change. And we have that as one of our products. So if that's something that's of interest to you as you move forward, then I would be happy to talk to you about it, or you can arrange a meeting with me, you, and whoever it is that needs to hear the message at your school, to give all your teachers at your site access to TA and so much more. Or you can just order the teacher assistant for $50. I haven't really talked to Alicia too much about where she is on all of this. Right now I think she's trying to expose as many of her leaders as possible to what we have, and she obviously supports what we're doing. So we'll see how the relationship develops over time. Do you guys have thoughts before we do our closing ticket out the door? Ideas to share? I assume silence is no. Okay. We're gonna. I got you a laugh. That's good. I'm gonna show my face, but that means you're gonna have to switch on to your audio learning instead of visual learning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you to the next step, which is the last activity on literacyta.com. So if you go back to your training page, the training module, there on the very, very bottom, after activity 1, after activity 2, there's a field, a text field. And it says, reflect on the information discussed in the session. Remember, we started with 2 quotes from 2 individuals about reading and text complexity, and it can be easy with the reading process. We outlined the 2 processes, reading and writing. I showed how we support those processes and how important they are for balanced literacy. Then we looked at 3 routines specifically. So what is a takeaway? What is something that you believe is important about today's session? And I'd like you guys to type that right into your field. And this does not have an editing or a viewing option. It should be problem proof. It should not have any issues. You're just going to type into your box, and then when you're done, give me a couple of sentences for thought, press save, and you are done. A green check mark will appear, and you are done for today. And I just want to thank you guys. It's always fun working with you. So thank you for today.
Yeah, if you look down in the bottom of the original screen.
Okay, I got it. I was just asking. You're not on mute.
Oh,
And then when you're done with that, just press save, and you'll be good to go. So I'm going to leave you with that activity. I don't need to be on Google Plus for that. I want to thank you, and we need to set up another date, so I'll work with Alicia to do that. It's going to come quickly, though, because we have to get it done before the end of this month. So thank you very much, and have a great evening, I guess it is for you, and a great weekend.
thank you. You too.
Thanks.
You too.